Hello, hello, hello. What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Dr. Tamika here, and I am elated to spend another day with you. The opportunity to share, to engage, to just impart information, to learn information from those of you who will participate now and later is truly my privilege, and it's my honor to even that you give me this space. On today, I hope you are ready to talk about, are your hormones out of balance? It's been a topic that comes up, if not daily, every other day in my practice. And even on the weekend, I gave a talk about 2 weeks ago, and hormones came up. So I figured let's start off this series in April talking about hormones. Those of you who will chime in later and who will come back, go back and watch this. This is something that you can, the foundational parts of hormones, and then you can share and then ask more questions so we can build upon it because it's a good topic. It's a great topic. And in fact, anytime I go to a conference and I come back from a conference, I'm all pumped up about it. So I was at a conference on hormones. Shout out to World Link Medical, Dr. Neil Rouzier, who I think is one of the best experts on hormone replacement therapy. So I figured why not go into this a little bit more because it is a topic for not only women, but for men also. And it's not for people who are just over the age of 55 or so. It's for people who are younger than that, who are experiencing some challenges. So are your hormones out of balance? And the top signs to look for. I mean, hormones impact literally every aspect of our well-being, your appetite, your zest for life. And as we think about just your overall health is impacted by hormones. I mean, hormone imbalances can be frustrating because sometimes they're difficult to recognize. And partly because some of us are in denial. And there's like a delicate balance, and even a slight shift can have negative repercussions. So when I think about hormones, I think about all of this. There are key players in hormone balance. And I say this because many people don't realize the things that come into play when it comes to hormones. And I move into this and I'm smiling because when you think about the hormones, they are messengers. They're delivering instructions like how to the rest of your body in order for many things to be regulated, including your mood, your appetite, stress level. Let's back up to appetite. Do any of you get hangry when you're hungry? So you get angry and with hunger. So mood, appetite, metabolism, sleep, sexual dysfunction, blood sugar, and so much more. When you're thinking about your organs, many of our organs involve maintaining hormonal balance. Your hypothalamus is a small part of your brain, and it sends signals to your endocrine system, which controls the secretion of hormones. And that endocrine system is so powerful that it contains the adrenals, the hypothalamus, ovaries, testes, parathyroid, and pituitary gland. So I'm not going to get too deep into this, but I want you to understand when these messengers get out of balance, we feel them physically, we feel them clinically, and we need to understand this better. So when we think about hormones, I need you to understand this. Who is at risk and why? We all, at some point in our lives, will experience some type of hormonal imbalance, but it's over our lifetime, right? And there's some ways that we're not certain of the developmental strategies of who's at risk of when and where and when and why. Like, for instance, puberty. How many of you have preteens and teens in your life that you deal with all day? Puberty is obvious one stage of when hormones are sometimes wildly out of balance. You know, all of a sudden, I'm gonna put my boys on blast, meaning I'm gonna tell them about themselves. All of a sudden, it's like talking about girls and mom, can I have a lady friend? I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? We didn't have this conversation before. I thought we were playing sports. But during that time of puberty, things start to kick in, right? Wow, these hormones are wildly out of balance. They're going. As we go on, like middle age starts to usher in a new era of hormone changes. For women, the production of estrogen sometimes starts to slow down with the transition to menopause. And for many women, you'll start to see a decrease in hormone production. But rather, we will see this decrease in hormone production and it'll start to manifest like perhaps low libido, gaining weight in the midsection, forgetfulness, moods up and down. It's just all over the place. And it's just like they're hard to manage. Like one minute you're fine, the next minute you're not. And you're trying to figure out what it is. And I'm here to tell you, perhaps you may need to consider your hormones. And we don't think about it because we start to associate that with, well, I'm not that old. I don't know. And nobody really talks about it. It's a shh topic, Oh, your mom, your grandma, your aunts may not be talking about it. And oh, they just went through the change and that's it. What is that change? But wait, men, you're not some group of people who don't get to be bothered by hormones as well. They're not immune, right? Men also experience a midlife hormonal imbalance. In fact, we like to call it grumpy old men syndrome. So if you're noticing that person in your life is just like, oh, they're just not the best to be around, and they can go from being happy to frustrated in a matter of seconds, and they're just like, they can gain weight as well. It's just they're off, and both male and female start to feel off. And when we notice this is a problem because perhaps, just perhaps, there is a challenge with hormonal imbalance. So let's talk about the top 10 signs of hormone imbalance. Number one, and they're not in any particular order. I'm just listing them. Bad PMS, really wild mood swings, unable to explain sadness, disabling irritability, premenstrual syndromes. It's not fun at all. And hormones are to blame. PMS is caused by a drop in estrogen and progesterone that occur in the second half of the menstrual cycle. And the low estrogen and progesterone can lead to decreased production of serotonin, a neurotransmitter, your feel-good neurotransmitter that plays a role in your mood stabilization. So if you're having some bad PMS, consider hormones. Number two, mood swings. Many hormones influence our moods, including norepinephrine, epinephrine, testosterone, oxytocin. So it's not surprising that a fluctuation in hormones can lead to emotional roller coasters for people. And that's for male and female. And then we think about the next one, fatigue. Hormones play a crucial role as it relates to energy levels. So an imbalance can also often lead to an unexplained fatigue. A decrease in thyroid hormone in particular can lead to extreme tiredness, and a decrease in other hormones such as progesterone can make it difficult to fall asleep. So if we're thinking about sleep, one of the things I like to ask people is, are you having difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep? And if so, we need to look into your hormones, in particular progesterone. Okay, Vitex has helped. I see you. So Vitex has helped for decades, helped me during menopause. I haven't used that, but I know that from what you're saying, if it works for you, that's great. One of the things we're looking at next is low sex drive. Oh my gosh, I have women, men left and right. It's like, I just don't have a desire to have sex. It's like, I can go and do this. And it's like, are you finished yet? And it's a done deal. But when you're talking about a low sex drive, a lot of times the testosterone can be off. And it can also mean that, you need a little help, a little support. So we can also talk about replacement. What can we do when we're noticing different signs and symptoms that may be associated with hormone imbalance? And then you get your labs checked, and then there's confirmation, but the labs are just there for a guide, right? Irregular periods, right? Low levels of estrogen and difficulties with thyroid hormones can also lead to changes in your period that don't follow a regular 28-day cycle in women. And as you enter perimenopause, that's like what we call no man's land. 1 minute you have a period, 1 minute you don't. Then you have a period twice a month and sometimes 3 times a month. It's like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just happens. And this is more pronounced in that perimenopause phase. And during this time, your periods are just difficult to predict. And when they're difficult to predict, I need you to start thinking, perhaps, just perhaps my hormones are out of balance. Okay. Now, the next thing we can talk about here is weight fluctuations. Before you used to be able to cut sugar out of your diet, work out real extensively, and then the weight would just come off. And now you struggle with weight coming off, despite your conscientious efforts as it relates to exercise and careful calorie control. You perhaps need to get your hormone levels checked, because when your hormones out of balance, you too can start to see this weight fluctuation. In particular, it can involve ghrelin, insulin, thyroid hormone. Oh my God, so many different things. Cortisol. Just think about, okay, my weight's acting up. It's not doing what it normally does, and I'm trying to do what I know what to do. Then we need to take it a step further. Another big one would be food cravings. How many of you out there have food cravings? I had someone today who actually right before this, who had talked about food cravings and I don't have food cravings during the day. It's at night before I go to bed. If you're noticing food cravings, it's important for you to start to think about hormonal fluctuations, especially those tied to menstrual cycle, leading to cravings of either high carb foods and sweets, And stress hormones can truly play a part in this area as well. So food cravings, like, oh my gosh, I'm having these cravings. Start to think about hormone imbalance. Brain fog. This is a big one. Brain fog. When we think about brain fog, it's like, I'm unable to remember the things that we talked about. I'm unable to remember that, hey, I was in the kitchen. Why am I in the kitchen? Oh, I was told to fill out some forms and now I can't even remember. Okay, I'll fill out the forms and now I can't fill out the forms. This is a challenge, right? So when we think about what's up, Doc Lifestyle, when we start thinking about brain fog, it's real and it's frustrating because if you have a family history of, let's say, of dementia or a family history of other challenges, you start to think like, oh my gosh, do I have this problem with, is that going to happen to my health? But I'm going to tell you this, before you jump down the what, oh, woe is me, this could be me, this is in my family, stop, take a breather and think about, maybe I have a hormone imbalance. And for the next one we'll talk about as far as our top signs of hormone imbalance, let's think about headaches. Headaches. Another big topic in my practice. When we think about headaches, in particular, I'm going to touch on women. For women, sometimes low levels of estrogen can be associated with increased headaches, but also changes in magnesium can impact it. But since we're talking about hormones, let's just stick with that. So imbalances also in hormones such as cortisol, thyroid hormone can also contribute to headaches. So before you just keep popping the Motrin, keep taking the Aleve, or maybe putting the peppermint oil, or maybe putting the eucalyptus diffuser on, and maybe you got relief before, but perhaps we need to take a step further and start to look into, are my hormones out of whack? Another big one, and how many of you may be dealing with this, is sleep problems. Oh my goodness, disruption in sleep. And I bring this up because it is a topic that I don't see it's going anywhere anytime soon, but let's start to impact upon it. If you have disruptions in your sleep inducing hormones, like melatonin can impact your circadian rhythm, progesterone can also impact your sleep, cortisol can impact your sleep. When we start thinking about sleep, I want you to take a step back and think about like, okay, maybe I'm having a hormonal imbalance. So the objective now is to restore balance, right? And I'm just going to touch on this a little bit because my goal on today is just to get you thinking, okay, it's not all in your head. Let me give you that affirmation. It's not all in my head. Because sometimes you'll go see someone, you'll go see your doctor, and everything is told, everything is normal. Let me be very clear. You don't want to be normal. You want to be optimal. And you're leaving there with the question you walked in with. So be assertive in your health and say like, okay, this may say normal, but I'm not feeling my best. So we can think about the fact that hormones influence one another. It's a complex chain, right? If we know that's going on, if we know that melatonin can cause problems with sleep, and then if we're not getting enough sleep, that can inhibit production of testosterone. And then it's all connected. So if we think about connection, we have to think about how do we make this better? So let's give you a couple of tips. Maintaining a healthy body weight, which is a catch-22, right? If your hormones off, you may not be able to do that. So eliminating foods that can be not pro you. So reducing to eliminating alcohol, caffeine, and processed foods. The next recommendation would be practice stress reduction. Shout out to Doc's Lifestyle. She does a gratitude every Sunday at 9 a.m. She does a gratitude practice. So perhaps we need to jump into things that help us think about gratitude, and because that can help reduce stress, right? Gratitude meditation, mindful meditation, doing things that reduce stress. Maybe that's listening to music, maybe that's prayer, maybe that's Bible study, whatever that is for you. Then we need to focus on doing those things that reduce stress. And as I'm talking to you, I'm taking it in for myself as well. For me, I've recently started to write into my gratitude journal. So when it starts to come and I feel a little off, I literally just start writing. I literally start writing what I'm thankful for. Okay. Incorporate exercise into your life. I know many of us don't like the word exercise, but getting up and moving definitely helps our bodies, right? It helps us. Walking can help regulate your hormone levels. Just thinking about simple things you can do now that can help. The other thing that comes up is minimizing the use of hormone disruptors. Now, these are all these crazy chemicals that we put on our bodies, we clean our houses with. They truly can mimic certain hormones in our body, which confuses our body's responses. And so we may process these hormones a little bit differently, which can also cause problems. So being an informed person is so very important about different hormone disruptors that are out there. And if you're not someone who's into I don't want to do any prescription meds, don't worry. There are some natural supplements that you can take that can also help with hormone imbalance. What I tell my clients, those who don't want to do any type of prescription and those who want to do a natural approach, it does take a little bit longer, right? A natural approach takes a little bit longer for the supplements, the herbs to get into your system to actually figure out what's the right dosing to work for your body. But there's some examples of ginseng, black cohosh, evening primrose. These are things, red clover, that have been shown to help as it relates to hormone imbalance. The last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to emphasize with clarity, find out what your hormones are, find out your levels, get tested and get balanced. If you believe that you figure out, based on what I've said so far today, what you've heard, what you've already investigated yourself, you may hear this very clearly now. Your hormones perhaps can have a profound effect on what you're going through right now. So before you rule it out, check it out, okay? Check out what your levels are. Maintaining balanced hormones can truly have an impact on your health, as well as allow you to enjoy a healthy lifestyle. And that's what we're about, having a healthy lifestyle. And if you want more information on, let's talk about hormones, if you want to know like more as it relates specifically to you, I encourage you to reach out to my practice and let's talk about it. We can jump on a 15-minute call, unlimited health strategy call, and you can get that on my link bio here on Instagram or on Facebook. You can just DM me. But let's get into a conversation and see, perhaps, is it your hormones? But as we think about functional medicine and getting to the root cause, looking at hormones is definitely part of getting to the root cause, because if you're experiencing any of these crazy symptoms of bad PMS, mood swings, not sleeping, fatigue, low sex drive, irritability, food cravings, brain fog, and the list goes on, and some of the ones I haven't even listed, but I just wanted to give you an idea of some things you need to be considering. As we think about your health, you need to ask, are your hormones out of balance? And if so, get with a provider, get your labs tested, and remember, normal is not where you want to be. You want to be optimal. So look for someone who's not just looking at the lab guide, what the range says it should be, because the range can show that you're normal, but perhaps where you need to be is outside of the range because we want to be optimal. And remember, the ranges are there to guide us, especially when it comes to hormones. When I talk to my clients about hormones, I tell them very clearly, this is a guide. How do you feel? It may say high over in the range, right? It may say high, but they may say, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I feel like I have my life back. I can sleep. I'm not having cravings. I'm losing weight. My sex drive is back. I feel more confident. My relationships at home, my relationships at work, my relationship with my kids. I feel my relationship with myself is better. So when you don't know, start to ask questions, and ask questions of those who can help you. Now that you have some information, I arm you with taking a step to doing something. Make a change. Not that you have to, but that you get to. With that being said, happy Thursday. Stay tuned for next week. If you have questions, comments, or concerns about this, let's talk about it. Society makes women believe all that disgust is just part of being a woman. So not true. It's a sign of imbalance. You are so on point with that. Oh my gosh. Let's just talk about that. When you look into, I'm going to talk about this because this is a hot topic in my practice, and I'm glad you brought it up. Yin Yang Co, because society will make you think, well, that's just a part of aging. It just comes with the territory. You'll get over it. It'll pass. Just go through the motions. But at the same time, you may look good on the outside, smiling and profiling, but falling apart on the inside. So recognize that you don't have to settle for status quo. Don't settle. Don't sit up there and say it's just part of being a woman. No, part of being your best every day that you can be is what you should be trying to do daily. And if your hormones are off, then let's take some steps in order to help them get back in alignment. And just don't settle for that. First, you got to put the oxygen mask on you. That's what they say on the airplanes, right? So let's put the mask on you and say, hey, I've heard this brief little talk about hormones, and I really do think my hormones are off. And stop telling me I'm normal because I feel off. And if you can't help me, let me move to the next person. Because at the end of the day, you're your best advocate. You know your body better than anybody else. And as you move through this, as you go through this, and as you experience this, you don't want to just sit back and let things go by. You just don't want to sit back and be like, oh, okay, well, they said it's a part of it. And nobody around you talks about it. And our friend groups sometimes are guilty of this as well. It's hush, hush. No one wants to really talk about, what? I'm not doing good. I don't feel my best. It comes up, and it's coming up more and more readily as we go through this. And I'm smiling because you brought it up. And I'm glad you did. Don't settle for status quo. Be encouraged, be uplifted, and speak up for yourself, speak out for yourself, speak up for someone else and say, hey, you know what? I thought about what you were saying. I read this, I heard this, and maybe you need to get your hormones checked. And that's okay. It's totally perfect. It's totally fine. You are not alone in this. You're not the only woman or only man who's been through this. You're not the only person who's going to go through this. The issue is, let's get a handle on it. Don't just put a Band-Aid on it and be like, okay, so be it. That's what it is. No, that's not what we're doing. We're not settling. We are going to be optimal and move forward. Right. And medication, prescription meds, like some people, when they're having these challenges, one of the go-to for providers is to give you a prescription med, right? They may want to give you like an antidepressant. And I'm not against antidepressant medication, but maybe what's going on is that you may need some progesterone replacement that helps with mood, that helps with sleep. So perhaps you have a progesterone deficiency and not a deficiency in Prozac. It's not the ill of going towards prescription meds, but you can start with something that's going to help replace what's going on. And if you don't want to do the prescription, then we can find something else, more of a natural route. But what I say of my natural route, people, is that it just takes a little bit longer for some for it to get into the system. And if it works for you, great. So start there. Start it somewhere of like, okay, I need results and I can't settle any longer. You don't have to settle any longer. That's not an option. You get to choose you all day, every day. And as I think about this and I start talking about this, I wonder how like people are doing overall. Like, you know, you go in there and you look at your supplement cabinet and you're taking all these different supplements, wondering if they're working. There's one of the supplements that I like called Vibrant Cells that's soon to be, that I'll definitely be providing, because what I say about Vibrant Cells, it's a way of looking at vitamin D and vitamin E as in Eric. Vitamin E, not the one you probably have in your cabinet, which is tocopherols. I'm talking about tocoretinols. This is a vitamin E that helps with your cell health, helps with anti-aging, helps with vitality, helps with fighting against blood sugar, helps with fighting against cholesterol. So as we think about hormones, what I tell my clients is, yes, we're going to look at hormones, but we're also going to look at these other areas. And one of the foundational things we're going to need is good, healthy cells. And as we think about good, healthy cells, we want to get the right products in our system. So I thank you for joining me today and just asking yourself the question. If you miss any part of this, just ask yourself, okay, could I be experiencing a hormonal imbalance? And if so, what are my next best steps? You go through, listen to this, think about mood swings, think about weight gain, think about lack of sleep, think about fatigue, cravings, all the things I've mentioned. And ask yourself, if you answered yes to any of those, then your next step is to speak with a provider, speak with me, speak with who you feel comfortable with about, let's look into my hormones. And I'm going to tell you, as someone who practices functional medicine, I'm going to look into hormones as well as taking a comprehensive look at you. Because your next question will be, and we'll soon talk about this, is, well, do I have to take this for the rest of my life? Or can I take less? As you optimize your body will start to work for you. So putting the foods in there that's going to help your body do what it needs to do, putting the right replacement as it relates to whether it's bioidentical hormones, putting that on board and getting you where you need to be, getting the right nutrients from the right supplements with the right dosage amount at the right time is what you need. It's a comprehensive person. We are complex beings. We are complex. So it's not just one and done, one little thing. It's a multitude of things we're going to do to make things better. And I hope that I can be a part of your team, even if it's just Thursdays at 12:30 where we meet and we talk, we ask questions, we make comments. Let's do that. Let's continue to encourage one another and be on one accord and see what we can do to help those who may not have that problem now. But trust me, if you're not struggling with it now, perhaps you'll struggle later, or maybe you know someone who's been struggling. Nevertheless, let's continue to arm each other with education and support. So I'm going to go on to my next meeting because I have another talk to give, but I want to make sure that I'm here for you guys at 12:30 Pacific Standard Time on Thursdays. I love this opportunity. Have an amazing Thursday. Talk with you soon. Bye.